and it's just preparing the live stream, and then I'll just quickly make a post for my socials again. And yeah, it should be up now, just about. Okay, perfect. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, we're now live. Hi, everyone. And welcome back to another live stream with Jochen, Schleese, and I. We're talking with the biomechanics of horse and rider and doing another saddle fit talk. And then if we have time to field any questions at the end, we can go through them at the end there. So welcome, everybody. And this is Jochen. He owns Schleese Saddlery. You've probably heard about him and seen him on my channel before. So I'll let him do an intro, and I'm just going to share the link to this live on Instagram so more people can find it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back, and thank you, Shelby, to be at your channel. I'm going to split my screen here quick so we can let it work. So we can have some visuals, because I find it pictures say more than 1,000 words.
Oh yeah, visual learning.
Except for some other reason, I have an issue here today. Hang on, maybe I can figure this out. There you go. Yeah, today we talk about biomechanics to horse and rider. Myself, I'm a horseback rider, always grew up on horses, and my horse I trained from first level to 4-star eventing was a super guy, but we both have challenges. We were long and lanky, and to get the right alignment was sometimes a challenge over the fence. Here we are at the German Championship at 4-star, and that was 6-foot drop. So you can see clearly the horse totally overjumped the fence. And the question comes, is it rider arrow, horse arrow? Well, if I listen to my old coaches, they say it's never the horse arrow. It's a rider arrow, because the horse wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. So what was my arrow? Did I give him the wrong cue? Did I send him too early? And there is so many opinions, you know, and that's a hard part for us as a riding instructor, or for you as a rider, or for me as a saddle maker. So if we look and ask professionals such as veterinarians, they say sometimes, you know, it's not natural to sit on horses, but you want to look together and see what the rider does. Look on top. You know, we focus so hard on if the horse has the right talent, and is he strong enough to jump the fence, or is he talented enough to ride the big fences. But sometimes, you know, you have the horse that doesn't have this super breeding, and you get a horse and he's just marvelous because you click with him. So how and what does it all mean? So obviously, I like to look at science all the time. And when I'm looking at science, where do I start? Do you talk to people who are specialized in myofascia? I had an incredible seminar with Michelle Broadhurst, and who taught me a lot about myofascia, but also I learned a lot about the different breeds from one of the top leaders in Europe, who talks about, this is unfortunately only in English, only in German, but she has many English YouTube channels. If you Google her, Barbara Schulte, she talks to you about the difference in design, how horses change today. Now, what has that to do with biomechanics? Well, if the horses used to be much longer, shorter legs, broader chest, and today we had super long legs, narrow chest, and super short backs, horses are more hyperflexible and way more sensitive. And as a rider, I need to be on point. And when I talk to veterinarians, like I showed you the first slide, here's another one from Holland, Karen Liebert, who is not just a veterinarian, but she's also an excellent rider and coach. She talks a lot of biomechanics, and this is what this topic is all about. You know, so it's a huge topic. Where do we start with? And one of my biggest pet peeves is always the rider cannot do his job when he does not sit in the saddle what fits correctly. And if I'm quoting the oldest riding school in the world, the Spanish riding school, which is still running, they say it is of utmost importance not to cause the pupil any discomfort. With a cramped posture, it is impossible to achieve a pliable seat. Without a pliable seat, it's not possible to achieve oscillation in the horse's back. And if its back cannot oscillate, the back will suffer pain and it will not be able to collect. So here we want to talk about biomechanics. But what if you're sitting in the saddle? What is completely wrong for you? It starts with, I keep coming back to this book from Dr. James Warson. He's not a saddle maker. He is a adult amateur rider. He rides all his life. And he wrote a book about how the rider can suffer pain. And the fact is, okay, he uses in his book, the guy sits on Western and the girls on English, but there's many guys who write English and many women who write Western. So his topic mainly is, if you have two beings, one is the horse and one is the rider, they want to work together in harmony. But if you do not start with the right underwear, you'll be very uncomfortable. And I specifically use the word underwear because there's no man who likes to ride in female underwear, because you know what I'm talking about. If you're a guy, it's super uncomfortable, right? And why are so many women still to this day riding in male seats? It just drives me up to the wall. Now, is it maybe we don't know what we don't know? Don't we know that most important aid is my seat? And if my seat is how I come into this saddle to the horse with my pivoting in my pelvis, isn't that important that what's underneath my crotch, between my legs, underneath my seat bones, shouldn't that fit me? Right? And that's why when I talk about biomechanics, that's why I always say, there's many saddles made by man for man. And as a matter of fact, for thousands and thousands of years. Very rare. You go to 10, 15 tack shops, you might find one or two who offer you the same model in the male and female version. You could sit in the saddle. What is wrong? And you sit in the rear part and your center, your pliable seat is not possible. So when I say pliable seat, what is a pliable seat? Is it this one here where you ride with your legs way advanced? Or is it when the pelvis and the back is so curved, and then they have another curve on top, the two blue arrows there. And then the only way you can protect yourself from bleeding, rubbing, hurting your crotch is by pushing your stirrup leather forward and trying to sit the trot. It's impossible, right? Biomechanics means that I sit on the horse, what moves up and down in the back, but what swings in the movement. So let's have a look how this female rides in the male seat. Okay, leans back from hitting in the crotch, and horse tries to trot, but she's twice her weight now. She's not pliable. And that's what they mean in Spanish riding school with the horse will suffer pain. Doesn't look painful, but look at when we change, same day, in the saddle where she has a pliable seat. Now she can swing with the hip. Now the horse is trotting out of the shoulder, not out of the elbow. And we have more compulsion, more movement. Look at them side by side, so you see the difference. She's bracing in her lower back here. Okay, the horse cannot come up on the base of the neck versus the right picture, a complete different movement.
Insane. Like, that's actually insane. No one would expect that amount of a difference.
And I'm glad that you have now had couple saddles from us.
Yeah, it's
right?
cool.
And you can feel the difference.
I think like part of the problem is too, like growing up, like I never had any instructors that would emphasize like the saddle fitting the rider correctly. So if you couldn't get like your body to go in a certain position to like ride correctly, you just end up getting made to feel bad about yourself when you can't do that, if you know what I mean, because it would all be like, criticism from the standpoint of just being like, oh, well, it's like your body not doing this, not because like, oh, you can't do this because of the equipment you're in, if you know what I'm saying. So for me, like I never even considered how much a saddle that doesn't fit me would affect how I'm able to ride. And like instead I would look at it from the lens of like, oh, my leg is so bad today, I'm doing a terrible job. And then like it wasn't until I started riding in more new saddles and really getting one, because for me, like I'm a short rider, but I'm super long legged, so I couldn't really buy a saddle off the rack that would fit my leg and my seat, because my seat is small but then my leg is so long. And then when I finally did get one that actually fit my leg correctly, it's so much easier to ride properly and not have your leg sliding back over fences, or to not do what you were saying, like with the chair seat and your leg sliding forward like that. But I never thought of it before, because anytime I had been in lessons, it's very much like focused on like, oh, you're doing these things wrong, not that, oh, doing these things right is harder for you because of your equipment. Yeah, if that makes sense.
So this is a short little video. Let me see how long it is. Hopefully not too long. If I have the right video. Just to really point out, I think I had that run on a local show in San Francisco once, but I thought this would be a great way, because one of the sections I wanted to say, what are the 5 signs? How do I even know as a rider, hey, do I have a male saddle or do I have a female saddle? What is the distance? And we have showed this up a little bit. So let's see if I can, I hope I selected the right video. Let's have a quick look at this video. Are designed differently for men and for women. A male saddle has a narrow seat width, a narrow waist, and a wide twist. This saddle is designed for a woman. Soft seat, crotch comfort, narrow twist, wider seam. So you can see the big difference there. Okay, so right there where I hold my thumb, that's where your upper inner thigh is. And when I look at the rider's upper inner thigh, we, as guys, have the muscle in the back. We have more space here because our bone is straight.
Interesting.
Right? And you think women would be wider, right? Because they have wider hips.
Yeah.
But the hip is where the watch is, or the wrist.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes out, then comes in, and then goes down. So you girls have less space between the upper and inner thigh. And if you do not get a saddle with a narrow twist, your hip is the first, actually on younger people, is the knee first, then the hip.
Yeah, my knees are really bad.
and then the hip goes.
Yeah.
Right? So, and the one thing is, between your upper and inner thigh, there's this nasty little nerve called sciatic nerve. Right? So that is something, and you as a pro, you know, you get all these different horses in, and it's so important that you make a difference for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and I hear this a lot, people say, oh, you know, I can ride pretty much in every kind of a saddle. And then you make do, you know, and if you trying to do as best as possible, I'm not saying this is how you ride. I'm just saying that we see a lot of professionals, they compensate with the body.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm quoting again, Dr. James Warson, you know, this is a very common long-term damage. Professional.
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised I don't have that. I actually just got my back x-rayed because I thought I had kissing spine. So
yeah. So that is something what I mean, let's face it, riding is a super tough job on your body, financial, you're out in the elements. But if you use nature's 4 curves, yeah, they can protect your spine, your disc, use your joints and your heels properly. Your disc don't slip, because that is what's painful. You know, when your disc is properly, stays away from the nerves. But a slip disc, man, does that hurt. And top US riders and European riders had collapsed disc, where the disc slides into it. That is so painful. All right, so if your pelvis tilts back, you lean forward, and that blue thing here goes bye-bye. So again, I'm just a saddle maker, and I also taught a lot, wrote a lot, and I always thought I had the worst students. And I said to my mom, I don't want to teach women anymore because they just don't know how to ride. I'm not proud to say that. I was pretty chauvinistic, and I did not know what I didn't know. You know, I
That's
thought
good to admit, though. I've never actually, I think you're the first man that I've actually heard admit to being like that ever.
it's true, because I understand, and you do the same thing as a coach. You enjoy helping people. You enjoy when
Yeah.
the horse excels. You enjoy when they bring friends in and says, "Hey, you know, you got to go here because I really feel great." You know, I didn't enjoy how these horses going
Mm-hmm.
until a doctor said to me, "Look from the side. You know, the women have shorter tailbone, and the leg hip socket is more forward, so that brings the leg out." I have never ever seen these pictures, even in biology. And when I was a little kid, when I learned about the female parts and the male parts, yeah, we talked about who can have babies, not, but nobody showed me those pictures.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, and
of
when you
course,
see them, it's common sense. But like the problem is, I guess, that it's so normalized just to have like one type of saddle because I don't know, even now, like the way you explained the seats just a second ago, it made me realize that for me, like on one of my problems with certain types of saddles is that when I'm posting, like my thigh would grab like the flap that covers the stirrup bar and it would like pull it up and then it would keep like slapping down. And it was just like it didn't really hurt, but it was
yeah,
just annoying, like
yeah,
really annoying. And then I would try to like keep my leg further off the horse to stop it from doing that, which isn't good because it would just annoyed me so much. But now, like looking back at it, it was probably because it was the wrong type of
right.
training.
And now imagine you have a saddle what pokes you in the crotch or doesn't have support here, right? So what will happen is this is a modification drawing from a doctor, a veterinarian, who published this in 1982. And when a male sits in the saddle, shoulder, hips, and on the horse, shoulder, hips, and heels, because we have no curvature in the lower back, or very little, and we have
Mm-hmm.
a long tailbone, our butt cheek sits closer to the horse. And our crotch, the bone in the front is way up. So we can sit literally on the pelvis and don't hit the bone. Our parts, we just put back. But the main thing I want to show you here is how straight we are in the lower back, how long the tailbone is, and how the butt cheek sits on the horse's back. So guys sit like a tripod, but the girls have more curvature in the lower back. That makes your butt cheek higher, tailbone shorter, so you're missing that support.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a tripod and you cut one leg off, it falls.
Yeah.
So again, these are not my pictures. I modified them, yes, but the originated came from veterinarians who says, if a woman rides bareback, you cannot grab your thighs, okay? You're going to slam your crotch, first your soft parts, then the hard part, and then you fall in this gap, okay? And then you fall like this red line back, bloop. And unless you
Mm-hmm.
want to shatter these bones, you will not do. Where my mouse is, there's your female part. You're not going to rub that forever. And then, of course, you fall back here because of the muscles and the short tailbone. You want to sit like the green X, not like the red X. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you do sit like the red X, vertebrae goes bye-bye.
Ouch. I have
So,
someone that had a really good question. If you don't, they're just wondering about with the female trees, how you said there's like no tree in the front so that their pelvis doesn't hit it. They're just wondering what it looks like because they were thinking like no tree at all.
okay,
But yeah, I know you meant a cutout. So I think a visual for that would be good because they can't picture it as well.
okay.
Yeah.
So let me show you a quick, before I go into that.
Yeah.
So what we did and how we patterned our female tree is we had two riders, same height, approximate same weight, except the only difference is one was the girl, one was the boy. And when they came off the cast, the girl deepest point was the crotch. Okay, so what hits first is this bone here. Look
Mm-hmm.
how high the male's bone is. Okay, so when I'm looking at, let me see if I have a picture of the saddle with the hole. I made my money selling this to the bicycle companies. You probably see bicycle seats with a hole in the crotch. That's how this tree looks like, with a
Cool.
hole right underneath the front. Let me scroll down here. No, I don't have one. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
So you can't see it, but you definitely can push with a thumb where your imagine where your pubic symphysis be.
Yeah, like down.
And if you push all the way through, you will actually feel like, whoa, there's nothing underneath. So we as male would not like that, because we need something what pushes into our crotch. So our male parts go to the side, right? We want to make sure we don't fall on our parts. And that's why it's so important to before we go further into the biomechanics, that people understand we want that peak in the front. So the male's part go left. No girl wants to ride on the peak. Okay, this is an extreme case, or you protect yourself, lift up your heels and scoop to the back, because it hurts. Yeah, sometimes it's just a little friction, little irritation. But right here where that ball is, right, number 8, there would be a hole. Now there will be leather over and there will be foam underneath, but pretend the softest foam, like a knee pad foam, okay, in that area. So nothing pushes there in that area. So my recommendation, get measured, okay? So you can have this done by yourself. There's multiple videos we have on our website, how to do it. You have a sit on the saddle stand, measure your hips. Measure from the top of your pelvis to the bottom of your feet. It's all written down, okay, how you do this. And many people ask me, why is this so important? The lower measurements, there's no flap. Well, that determines where your sternbladder hangs, okay? That position here is always forward, because on the male, they have longer lower legs and longer feet in average, okay? So that means if you're a girl, you have a shorter lower leg, which girls do, and shorter feet, you're always looking for the sternbladder. As soon as you put heels down, your lower leg goes forward. So biomechanics, you get it. You understand how to sit with the movement, but every time you do your sitting trot, rising trot, the stupid lower leg has a life by itself. And many people said that, they said, hey, I have actually ridden so much better without leathers. So there is multiple pictures where they sit without stirrup leathers like this, and as soon as they put weight in it, leg goes forward. So when we talk about biomechanics, that means for both. How can I be soft? What you need to do is pliable seat. Move the pelvis back and forth. Be able to move your leg out of the hip socket independent to give the aids. And as I mentioned before, the most important part is your seat. Your seat is how you're bringing your weight into the horse's back without become a jackhammer or sit very hard. Any question at this stage, Shelby, before I go to the horse?
No, I think that's great, because I think the person understood the explanation for the seat better, that it's just it's not that you're removing the tray, you're just opening up a spot in the tray to make it more comfortable.
Right.
But yeah, I think that this is really cool, because like you mentioned, it can cause injury to people, and then also how the person rides impacts the horse as well. So I think, yeah, learning all this stuff is really important for people that are trying to advocate for themselves and their horses, especially in lesson programs. I guess the only question I'd have when we go, which will apply to horse biomechanics too, is just as a saddle maker, what your ideas would be for in a lesson barn, what you think the best practices would be for a lesson barn for making sure the saddles fit their horses and their riders. And how you think that can be modernized, because I think that's one of the places where you see the most poor fit for either horse or rider, and sometimes both at the same time.
So yourself that if you go to a lesson barn, there is this typical riding school, and then there are schools who specialize just in hunter jumper, or just in dressage, or just eventers. Okay, so it helps if you identify and go to a school what specialize into a certain sport. If you go to a riding school, what offers all the disciplines, most likely, because let's talk reality here. and that is cost. Everything is so stinking expensive these days. And with the inflation we're living in right now, you know yourself how much you have to pay for a bale of hay.
Oh, it's insanity.
Right? So
Yeah.
all these poor people who have horses or a riding school, all their cost goes up. The last they're going to think about is having fancy saddles or fitting saddles, because they're just trying to make words end. I have a good story to this, because
Perfect.
this is true, and it's if you think about it, makes sense, but it's hard to accomplish. So let me explain. There was in our area north from in Ontario, in Ottawa, lots of riding facilities. And this one dressage rider, she was her husband had a dairy farm, and they were quite successful. And she says, I really like horseback riding, and I learned so much, and I really want to have a school. And he says, are you crazy? We have 4 dressage riding clubs in our area. Yeah, but let's be realistic. Where do all these riders come from? We're not going to make a living if I buy a riding arena, blah, blah, blah. I built a riding arena on my place. So anyway, she got her way. He built her a riding arena, a new barn. And then she contacted us and she says, since I can riding, I always have ridden in your saddles. And I have lots of friends who have your saddle and lots of friends who don't have your saddles. And the amount of pain and issues and back problems these horses had who don't have your saddle is insane. I realized the golden saddle is not the golden ticket, which means horses don't have back problems. Back problems come somewhere else. But if I can eliminate the back problems, why wouldn't I? So the second highest cost, she said to her husband, I want equipment for my 8 school horses. And she's specialized in dressage. And she says, given lessons from 10 people, 9 to women, 1 guy once a while. So she specialized with only female saddles. And she specialized having these school horses sized. This big horse carries this big riders. This average type horse carries this average type rider. And the smaller one, smaller riders. So making a long story short, she constantly had fitted saddles, fitted female saddles to these horses, to the right size rider. And guess what happened? 2 of the other riding schools closed their facility.
Oh my God.
She had a waiting list. She 3 times increased the price to get rid of the naysayers. She kicked people out. She was one of the highest recognized. Why?
Wow.
Horses and riders didn't fight the equipment.
Yeah.
Her most important asset, her horses, less expenses. Her riders told all their friends, you got to go to Shelley. You got to go to Shelley. She is amazing. She has, when she tells you heels down, sit upright, it's so easy. She is such a good teacher. Well, these riders, either medium or beginner riders, didn't have to fight equipment. What bites the person in the crotch, puts them in the chair seat, or hollows their back. Imagine you are a beginner rider. You want to learn how to ride, and you ride saddles, which are so horrible for you because you don't know. You're just a beginner rider. You just take lessons. And you, as a coach, constantly fight with your students, sit upright, do this. And the horses, which brings us now to the biomechanics of the horse, braces and goes hollow and constantly is lame.
Oh my gosh.
So that's a true story. This school invested into the equipment and kept fitting it. So her assets, her horses, her most expensive and important part, stayed more sound. And the riders were thrilled how easy the horse was to be ridden. And guess what? People talk, right? And they says, I learned sitting trot with her in 3 months. Oh my God, I'm still on the launch line after a year and I still bounce around. Well, maybe you come to this riding school that teach you better. So yes, it costs a lot of money, but it's an investment.
Yeah, and happier horses are probably way more fun for people to ride anyways. So I bet they enjoy themselves way more.
Less dangers, less injuries in so many ways. So as I said, I totally feel for the riding schools. And as inflation goes up, my recommendation, you want to stop the bleeding, maintain your equipment, have equipment. If you teach mainly women, get rid of your male saddles, get a woman's saddles. If you don't want to go new, get used. We have so many good used saddles, and they still last a long time. If you say, well, I want a saddle what I can fit all the time, we talked about the multiple exchangeable gullet plate. I mean, look how big this gullet plate is. And in no time, the rider, while the saddle is on the horse, you can to put that in any width, any size the instructor wants. And yes, there's other gullet plates, but you can interchange. Takes too long. It got to be fast. It got to be simple. And when we were the official saddler for the Hanoverian auction, every 3 months they get new horses, and they auction off 100 horses. So each rider has 20 horses. So how do you think we managed that? That the riders had saddles for these horses. We didn't sponsor them with 80 or 100 saddles. They had 10 saddles. But these saddles were very quick adjustable to the 8 or 20 horses they rode. So that's what's a long-winded answer to your question regarding school horses and school saddles. Okay. Mm-hmm. Number one, get the gender appropriate saddle. You have women, get a woman's saddle. They learn faster riding. They promote you. You wouldn't believe it. Mm-hmm. Number two, get the saddle fitted either by a professional, or you get the saddles you can fit yourself.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm surprised it has taken so long for there to be like adjustable saddles like that, especially when we have like all these little things, like even within like people clothes, like there's adjustable sizing and stuff for clothing for like growing kids and stuff, so you don't have to buy new things all the time, and it just kind of makes sense. So
well, it's kind of like anything else. Follow the money. People say, when do you want to see if it's politics or business, corruption, follow the money. And of course, you'll make as a manufacturer or as a trainer way more money if you constantly sell horses, or a saddle maker constantly sell saddles. But you want to run like a chicken without a head around and chase the next sale, or do you want to get a reputation? You're an incredible trainer. Okay, you elevate yourself, and your horses are a complete different caliber. Than, like you said, much more happier, less injured. And for me, as a manufacturer who sells saddles, has a 1% market share, not even that, we can't keep up with the fitting. Imagine if I give the trainers, the riders, a cheaper, easier way to maintain the fitting. And that was my goal with these fully adjustable saddles, what needs to be adjusted on 12 points, not just a gullet plate or a screw. So yes, that's what it is super important.
Yeah, no, that's cool, because I think for a lot of people, they'd never even considered the fact that like adjustable saddles like that are an option, because it's just not talked about enough. And like you said earlier at like the beginning of this, that the amount of information there is out there to get, and the amount of like conflicting opinions, it makes it so hard for people to know where to look and learn.
It is absolutely, what I like to say, overwhelming. And I think why you and I get along so good, we both have this a little bit more, I want to say passion. Of course, everybody has passion. Right? Most people don't do this because they had an idea. They're passionate about horses. But sometimes the frustration or not be able to get the results can lead everybody of us in the wrong path. So people follow you because who you are and how you stand behind what you do and what and how you train your horses. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with our business. Sure, I could go to the stock market and say, okay, let's go public, get a lot of money, let's produce left, right, center, sell all the saddles to the retail shops. But then we lose the true connection we like to keep with our clients. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about a little bit about biomechanics. In order to understand the horse, we need to look from the top down. Look from the top down, you see how the rib cage goes wider towards the back and smaller towards the front. Okay, so if I'm look from the back, the horse has superficial muscles, which are the top layer, and has also muscles which are a little bit lower, like below the next layer. So superficial muscle you see here. Okay, the trapezius is on top of the shoulder. On the other side, you see the medius spinalis dorsi. This is underneath the shoulder. Okay, so that's the next layer. And the horse has several different layers. But what I want to show you here is, you see the splinalis looks like a triangle here. And the trapezius lays over from the side. You see the trapezius here. Okay, looks like a triangle. In order to have the horse moving free and get the movement we desire, you have to stay off certain bones. Shoulder blade, the spines, the lumbar. So on what bones can we sit? On the rib cage. On the rib cage is the largest, longest, most thickest muscle, this one here. This is the longissimus dorsi, the one in pink. And you notice it's not pink, that triangle, it's not pink, the trapezius. Okay. We want to sit on this long muscle right there. And if you look at army saddle, Western saddle, packing saddles, they always have these wide surface on that area. So far, so good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. That
Now
like
we
you're
need to,
yeah, then you're sitting on the muscle, not on the spine, like what a lot of people think.
That's right. And we do not ever want to sit on the wither muscle. If you put any pinching here, okay, it's a very thin muscle. The muscle atrophies, right? It goes very, very narrow. I mean, you've seen it from the racetrack. You know, there's many horses you get from a track which are super narrow here. Okay, so then what we also have to understand, this is number 5 in my training scala, straightness. Horses don't walk like a dog, but most people, when they ride straight, they think the horse is straight, and yet one leg is on the second track. So horses don't move by nature straight or are even straight. You see the difference here, shall we? All right. So in order for my horse to be moving properly, I need to stay off the bones such as shoulder, spine, and lumbar. Sit on the longest muscle, in the middle of the longest muscle. And I need to make sure that my channel is wide enough and of the spine. I cannot expect my horse to move in front of my leg or happy or bring his back up if the triangle or the spine is hit. Okay, here's a sad story. And the reason why I say sad is many saddles still have too narrow channels. They sit on the spine and causes injuries. So when you bend your ear or you make a fist like that and you see these tendons here, it doesn't hurt if I rub it. Okay? But if I rub it every day for 5 minutes, that tendon gets inflamed. And that tendon gets inflamed, I don't make a fist. So the dorsal nuchal ligament system, what is that? That is this incredible cable, what is in touch to the pole, to the withers, to the SI joints, hocks, all the way down. Okay, this cable carries the entire weight. And when the horse is jumping, sliding stop, canter period, and the hind leg is underneath the sternum, the front becomes weightless. That's what the horse does just before jumping or sliding stop. So if you have a channel, what sits on these ligaments, okay, horse will not complain. I do not complain if you hit my tendon. Tendon and ligaments, very similar. One, the tendon connects bone to muscle. Ligaments, like this, connects bone to bone. Both gets inflamed, both hurt. And if you sit on the spine, you can fake it. You can put draw reins on. But as soon as you have pressure here, the horse will compensate because it starts to hurt. Where do I want to sit? On this long, fat muscle, right in the center. Okay, that's the longest muscle, longissimus dorsi. See, not on the withers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you sit here, then the horses have a chance to contract the stomach muscle and pull the haunches underneath, just like that. Back comes up, haunches underneath. Look at the front leg. The second you sit on the spine, or you don't fit the left to right, he's bracing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now what? He's on the forehand. Why? Because when the back muscle tightens to protect, this stretches and the hind leg and tail goes up like this. So now all the weight is on the forehand. So if I follow the principle of classical riding, or what has been written since 1,000 years, get off the forehand, you have to have the 1, 2, 3 example. 1, back up. 2, haunches underneath. 3, get the horse to lift the thoracic sling. Here you go. Thoracic sling means pectoralis muscle and scapular attached from shoulder blade to upper arm. When they get wider and they lift, look at this, whoop, they lift.
Mm-hmm.
And through training, they start to develop and become wider and wider in the shoulder. Bing, bong, bang. So that is the classical riding. If I want to upset this, all I have to do is put a jackhammer on the horse's back, or put the rider in the saddle, what is so long here that they sit so far in the middle of the back. You see this back cutback here? There's so many saddles with big cutbacks. What does that do? What does that do? It puts the rider center of gravity behind this red line. So here you're looking at the horse from the bottom. This is the sternum plate. See all the ribs connect to here? So these ribs are super strong. You sit back here, the horse gets tight. So you can't have number 1 done, which is back up. If the back is not up on the horse,
Mm-hmm.
because of various reasons, if it's the rider's problem, and that's what they talked about in Vienna, if it doesn't fit the rider, it will always hurt the horse. Then the horse goes hollow. Number 2, this is the cross section from the muscle I just talked to you. Look at this longissimus. Look how fat that thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And look at those 3, all these underlying muscles, spinalis, trapezius, rhomboideus, very thin. So if the saddle pinches the withers, well, another time we can talk about dry spots, the horse will hollow his back. Here comes the problem. If he hollows the back, how is the shoulder ever going to slide through? Okay, so it's a reaction, one step at a time. The horse will start getting really cranky.
Mm-hmm.
I think I showed you this video before.
Yeah.
But check out how these muscles contract and how the shoulder blade goes back. Okay, see, I do it in slow motion there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's crazy how much they move.
it's incredible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now if you put a saddle on it and you girth it on top and you put the rider on top, how does that shoulder slide underneath without hurting? And that's the holy grail of saddle fitting. Okay? How do I protect my horse from shoulder damage, which will happen, right? They get all these damages on this area right there, or dry spots or atrophy. How can I do it? So the answer lays in this picture here. Find it right there. So here you see the area of the long muscle, the pink area. When the saddle sits on the horse's back without the girth, without the rider, in the cross type, I want to slide my pencil through here, have contact. The main contact in the middle and less in the back and in the front. So 100-pound rider, 30 pounds here, 40 pounds here, 30 pounds there. So people say, whoa, 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 wouldn't that make the saddle rock? Well, isn't a rider on there yet? No. The second you sit on top, the weight will go down. Yeah, but I bring the horses back up. For 100 riders, less than a handful maybe be able to do it for various reasons. So what does it mean? The horse brings it up. So when I sit on top, the horse brings it up. This picture here, the horse is galloping, okay? Horse's hind leg is underneath, and all these bones come up in the center. If the saddle contacts in the middle, this one didn't, it's hollow, okay? So we got, instead of 30, 40, 30, we got 50% pressure here, 0% pressure here, 50. Shelby, here's the bizarre part.
Yeah.
There's actually veterinarians and some saddle fitters who think this is the proper way, that the saddle has to fit like a bridge. Dig in the front, dig in the back, and has to be hollow. And their argument is, oh, when the horse's back comes up, then it touches. Yeah, but what we really want, if the back comes up, okay, in the center, it pushes from the center the front away so that the shoulder in that moment can slide through. Okay? We call that tree lift fit. So when I talk about biomechanics of the horse, okay, this here, okay, it's not normal the way that horse trots or canters. There is all spine fused, no more with the muscle. All the spine and the SI joint is fused. This looks horrible. And that's not proper movement. If the back doesn't lift, okay, and pushes the center up, here you see a horse laying on the side. Here's the shoulder blade. Okay, that cartilage gets damaged. Most horses have white hair or dry spots in the front or white hair in the back. Only bareback riders or treeless saddles are there and that white hair in the middle. But most of the time, the saddle is, you're looking at the horse from the back, too much pressure in the back, too much pressure in the front, none in the middle. So how can I make all these comments? It's very simple, because I can prove to you in a neosecond. You know, there's Apple watches and there's what measures your heart rate and your condition. There is a girth, used to be a full girth, now it slides down. It measures the heart rate, the calorie burn, left-right gait analysis, cadence, elevation, trot cemetery, jump height. I mean, let's face it, we have technology who separates the boys from the men, or the opinion people from the people who can actually prove before the horse is damaged if the saddle is fitting correctly. So it lifts the saddle out of the center, okay? Then the horse can avoid the holding line, the atrophy, okay? Then the horse can enjoy his work, and then horse and rider becoming a unit, one being, not two beings, who work with the force in harmony and not against each other. So let's summarize. 4 curves in my spine. I can weigh 130 pounds and ride like a jackhammer, bounce, 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 twice my weight. If I don't ride in a female, if I'm a female, or in a male, if I'm a male, gender appropriate saddle. Absolutely must. Otherwise, you will not be soft in the back. If you have the right fitting for the rider, does the saddle align sternum to the horse? So you stay off the horse's movement. When I say sternum to the horse, that was the picture I was showing earlier, where I was showing on the bottom here, the sternum plate. Okay, so I always say to people, nature gives us these 4 curves when we run, when we walk, so our discs don't get hurt. So we use nature shock absorption and be supple in the hip, knee, and ankle. We can ride half our weight. Okay? I weigh with my saddle 250 pounds. I can ride 500 pounds heavy, or I can ride half my weight. And the horse back swings up and down, and then canter, kind of like a earthworm which scoops forward. Biomechanics in my world, or what I understand from people who dedicated their lives, professors who done research, not to sell saddles or have opinions about the one or the other breed. I go to the experts, and for me, experts are people who don't do this, and that's not experts. Experts, just because you have a lot of money and somebody gives you a lot of horses and you ride like this, no, these are not experts. Experts are people who understand the physiology of the muscle, the horse, understand the blood vessel, understand movement, and do not turn a blind eye when the horse goes like this. This year, horses do speak, right? They have a different language, and I need to understand before the horse's soul disappears out of their eyes. I cannot stand it when people treat horses like machines. And I feel very sorry for all people who have not ever the chance to really try a male and female saddle on a fitted and non-fitted horse. And that's why I appreciate you giving us the time to let me explain it. This is a man-made bag. Okay, that's way back. This horrible kissing spine. We don't need it. Okay? We really don't need it. We don't need the horse give up and leave their soul. It makes me cry when I see this. I think all humans who ride are compassionate. Some people just get sometimes drawn in the wrong way. All us, especially, you have the nurturing in you. We love horses. We love horses. We want to do the best. But I hope this little talk today helped people to understand the unit, the interface, the saddle must help both horse and rider, and not just the sponsored rider or the saddle maker. It has to help the horse. Right? This has to stop. Did that help a little bit to explain?
Oh yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, because I think like a lot of people when they're fitting saddles, they'll generally like only look at it from the horse's perspective first and foremost. Like, I mean, they'll want to be comfortable sitting in it, but I don't think a lot of people consider like the differences in trees and whatnot, depending on like what type of pelvis you have then. And yeah, because I think I never before would have considered how much it could affect the fit of a saddle that fits the horse if it doesn't fit the rider, until talking to you. So I think that is really important.
Yeah, and I mean it's so much information. And I just come back from a huge trade show, and people say, where can I read up all this? I mean, we have on our website over 60 free videos. My book is published in many languages, and I don't think saddle fitting should be opinion, should be science fact, right?
Oh,
Sponsorship.
for sure.
I love sponsor people like you because you look at the whole horse approach, not the magic saddle or the magic whip. You know, you really be so in tune. And every time I go frustrated, I watch that YouTube from you when you race a horse without a bridle. I mean, that's the ultimate test right there.
Yeah.
How you trust that horse and how you are totally in sync with that animal. It's just beautiful, right? And unfortunately, people fall in this cognitive dissonance because it's overwhelming. I get it, right? So hopefully some people
I think it's
have,
important.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's important for like, the free access to all of this information, because the hardest thing is, I think, finding resources, and it can be so overwhelming that I think a lot of people just choose not to, or they'll just stick with like whatever they hear in the barn, whether or not the person giving that information is like the most credible source. So I think like, sharing free information, I think, is huge for helping to educate the horse world, because no one, like, or at least the vast majority of people don't want to be actively like hurting their horse.
No, I don't believe in that either.
Yeah. So, but
well,
yeah.
If there's any other question, I mean, our website is Saddle
Fit for Life.
Saddle Fit for Life is our educational site, and
perfect.
And Schleese.com, you see many videos there as well.
Yeah. And then they can also see the saddles and whatnot too, if anyone's interested in looking at like the new adapted saddles that you have. And
if people want to learn and become a equine agronomist or saddle agronomist, we have 5 different courses online now.
Cool.
So it's not as difficult anymore. But I think most people have, and I noticed that on the trade show, we had over 750 people watching our demonstration every day. And they come on and says, I never heard about a female saddle, but it makes sense. No rider rides in male, or no male rider rides in female underwear. And that's just cloth. So never mind leather, steel, or wood.
Oh yeah, no, it's so cool. It's like I've learned so much in like the last little while just talking to you, and just like things that I guess people don't even consider because they've never been brought to our attention before. So you kind of need like that first intro to get into something and get curious enough to keep looking for more information and learning. And I think these videos are so important for that.
One of a trainer said to me, I think it would help people if you can make videos like how a little boy, 8-year-old, fits the saddle for his mom, or a little girl, to show people it does not need to be so complicated. So we got these fully adjustable Western saddles. You can learn it to do it yourself, and fully adjustable English saddles. You can learn it to do it yourself, or you can do it with our online service. So we help you via FaceTime. Okay. So this trainer says, if you have a video and show that the little kid can do it, then people are a little bit more open to say, if that little girl can do it, I can do it.
For sure.
That's kind of what we do next. But people like you who have experienced these different models we have sent you, and it's another thing, because I trust my coach and I trust what you say, because you've obviously been around now and have a great sponsors and have great following for a certain reason.
Yeah, and it's been so cool to try all of them and learn about all the different saddles. I'm really excited to try some of the adapted saddles soon, because I was talking to Marie Claire about getting some of them for my string for next show season or so. So I think that'll be cool too, especially since Banksy will be growing for like the next 3 years. So it's like the perfect idea for like a baby horse.
But the cool part is, and you're crazy enough to do it, I'm going to ask you, adjust it while you're on the horse. What?
Okay.
Yeah, just when you ride and say, oh, it's a little tight, open the left side.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, he picked up the lead. He didn't change in the flying lead change. He was even, he wasn't late. Wow, he constantly taps the rail or knocks the rail on the front right. I opened the front right. I can't believe it. And then when you see it, duh, it's so logical.
Yeah. Well, and if it's that easy, it's like, why not? That's so much easier than getting saddle fit appointments all the time. Or like, I like that ease of use.
Yeah, and that's what we do. And same like cars, there's many different options, many different features.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Giving the information out to people means that they can come to their own conclusions and kind of learn along the way. And I think you're helping lots of people.
Yeah. What people hear, they forget, but people see, they remember. But what people feel, when you adjusted your own saddle, how much subtle and softer and nicer your horse is, you will understand.
Oh yeah, exactly. And like, some people need to see and feel it to believe it, which is like the big thing. So appealing to those types will be huge, because they're the ones that are usually the most resistant to change. But I think that change is coming.
Yeah, it does. Well, it was great talking to you again, as always.
Nice talking to you too. Looking forward to doing another one and continuing
you stay dry. I had a question. Is your barn okay? Are the stables all dry?
We're actually we did surprisingly well. Like, I'm actually so shocked how quickly our property dried out. Like, we had roads that flooded out and washed underwater, and some people's cars ended up underwater, but not on our property, just around. We got so lucky. We were just in one of the pockets, I guess, that didn't get everything flooding into here.
I think if you don't have a horse, you don't understand how horse people freak out, because if the stable is underwater, what we do with a horse, it's not like,
and swimming them out is so scary. Like, the vet clinic had to evacuate 100 cows and they had to get them to swim. And it's enough water that I would be if it were my horse, you're concerned if they're tired or if they're scared or if they refuse to go, there's a chance that they just stop swimming partway through. And it's there's so much water in some of those areas that they actually have to go a fair distance, or even just running through chest deep water. They get tired so much more easily. And anyone with senior horses and stuff I feel bad for all of those people. So I hope they're all able to evacuate safely. And
Well, my thoughts is with them, and I hope that you stay dry, and I look forward to talk to you next time.
yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Have a good
Take care.
day. And thanks for doing this